Hey everybody, it's Professor Malott. It is week 12 and we are in the home stretch. We have this week and next week and then we are done. And for most of you, this will be the last English class that you have to take. If you choose to take other classes, that's fantastic. Other English classes, that's fantastic. But I'm sure most of you are like, okay, this is the last required hoop I need to jump through. Um, so just hang in there until the end and do your very best to get the work completed. So we are now in the drafting phase of our research, and I know that this is going to be a bit of a time crunch for you. Um, I apologize for that, but there's not a whole lot we can do. I had to make sure that you got the required uh, number of essays done, the required amount of writing done, and this is the last portion of it. If you feel like you are lost for any reason, I suggest that you go back to the beginning of this unit and review the materials. You can actually take a look at the Unit 3 overview. That's right between week 7 and week 8 in the modules, and that will give you an overview. It'll also provide you the various the weeks that what we were doing at each week. I know it goes by quickly, but it can be difficult to remember. So if you need a refresher on Lexis, a refresher on Discourse community, and of course, what this whole project is all about, what we're trying to do, and how you do it, there are some materials from the UC main campus, English department, and the library that address how to go about doing this discourse community project. So we'll jump back to the week 12 page. There are a few resources that I would like you to take a look at. We have, of course, the rough draft handout, which is exactly the same as the instructions on the discourse community rough draft. That's due Sunday, August 3rd. It's hard to believe that July is almost over. Again, we have a review of creating a research space. I introduced that to you last week, I think. I think I did. Yeah. And I'm just repeating that information here for you. And then we have a few different Discourse community research papers that are posted online. The first one is the fuel rats, and these are by students. The first one is the fuel rats of Elite Dangerous, and the second one is Whale Watcher Watch, Authority and Exclusion in the Marine Mammalogy Discourse Community. So it's a couple of different approaches to how you can do discourse community research and how you can write about it. So I highly recommend reading those examples. And if you want to jump ahead to next week for an example student writing that was done in this class, this English 2089 class, there is a student paper called Women in Business, a Discourse Community. So it's always good to have examples to look to figure out what the expectations are and how the thing in the end is going to look as you begin drafting. So let's take a look at the rough draft assignment so you understand what is required of you. So this is the preliminary analysis of your discourse community, also known as the rough draft. So we can skip over the purpose, skills, and knowledge and jump on down to the tasks. So for this draft, you don't have to do a full 8 to 10 page paper. You can if you want to, of course, but it's not required. Instead, I want you to submit preliminary work, which should include the following: a title. It could still be your working title, right? You've had your working title from a previous assignment. I'd like you to at least have some kind of an introduction written that will help you to jump into this. You should have some kind of thesis, right? It should be revised from your working thesis, but I'm a little flexible on that. Then I want you to include an outline or some kind of plan of attack, right? How you are planning to organize your thoughts around this project. They don't have to be fully fleshed. You could just say, maybe go paragraph by paragraph or section by section and what you plan to do. And then lastly is data collection or analysis. So it could be notes or transcripts. If you've done interviews, a list of the questions. If you still have to do the interview, a list of the questions. Transcripts from any discussions you may have had, any commentary, or a more formal, in-depth start of your analysis is acceptable. The goal length for this here should be about 3 to 4 pages, so roughly about halfway done, right? Failure to submit this rough draft is going to result in a 2% deduction from your overall project grade. That's actually left over from an older version of this class, so that might actually change. So here are some suggestions for research and organization. First, with the data analysis, the data you collect and analyze, you're going to be using the characteristics of the discourse community that are found in Swales, right? And that article, Reflections on the Concept of Discourse Community, and we had like 6 different criteria, I think 6 or 8 different criteria that Swales listed out. And that will give you an overall picture of your discourse community. And then I want you to focus on what you've learned in this course to find something especially interesting, confusing, or illuminating. So use other course readings, pull in other course readings as helpful examples. Consider the following questions. Are there conflicts within your chosen discourse community? Why do those conflicts occur? Are there texts that mediate these conflicts or exacerbate them within that discourse community? Are any genres especially effective in helping the community work towards its goals, and why? So if you are a member of, let's say, a gaming community, right? A gaming discourse community, let's say, well, what would it be? I don't know what the most popular game is anymore. But if you're in a gaming community, right, are there genres that are especially effective in helping the community work towards its goal? So it might be YouTube live streams, right? That might help the community work toward its goals because people are seeing how somebody goes through and plays through a game, right? And why that might be important. So that's just one example. Do some participants have difficulty speaking and writing in the community? Why? Who has authority in the community? How is it demonstrated in written and oral language? And where does that authority come from? Are members stereotyped regarding their literacy knowledge, and why? So those are just some questions. You don't have to answer all of them because not all of them will apply to your discourse community, but at least that gives you a little bit of a guideline, right? And then for planning and drafting, as you develop answers to some of those questions, set some priorities. What do you want to focus on in your writing? Is there something interesting regarding the community's goals, their conflicts, their lexis, or mediating the genres? Do you see evidence of how people gain authority and enculturate in the community? So you might want to really focus on lexis, right? Especially if you're in a community where the lexis is super different and super specialized, like in the health community, health sciences, right? Medical communities, even, computing, right? We have different lexis and not everybody is familiar. So you might want to focus in on lexis. Do you see evidence of how people gain authority and enculturate or assimilate into the community? I want you to write a refined research question for yourself to address in your final report. Now that you've observed and analyzed data, what questions would you like to explore? And then the final report structure, and this will apply more to your final revised report. Your final text should include the following parts or follow the CARS model, right? So we're going to have an introduction, which will incorporate a brief literature review of existing research on discourse communities. So that's where you're going to pull in information from Swales. You might want to pull in from Seth Kahn, other people who have written about discourse communities. So, that would be very helpful. And then I want you to carve out your niche, right? What is your niche identification? Identify a gap in the research or where you want to add to the conversation, right? It might not necessarily be a gap, but it may be something where you have an overwhelming urge to add more to what the experts are saying, right? And then your research methods. I want you to describe your methodology. How did you go about analyzing the data, right? How did you go about gathering the data? Did you interview people? Um, did you do extra reading? Did you watch videos, right? Videos can be really, really good and informative. So that's definitely um, a research method you could use. What are your findings? Discuss your findings in detail, right? Again, if you aren't able to go out and participate within the community, videos might be really, really helpful there. And then a works cited, right? You need to include a works cited page. It's best to organize with headings. So you're going to use section headings to organize your research, and a list here to consider for following headings. So of course, introduction, you're going to have a background, you're going to have literature review, methods, methodology, data. It doesn't have to be all three. Choose one of those terms. Discussion or findings, either or, right? Works cited or works consulted, references, bibliography. What you call your list of references is going to depend on which citation method you're using. Remember, I'm not requiring MLA in the course. If you are most familiar with MLA, that's fantastic. But if you are more comfortable using APA, Chicago style, or some other kind of citation method because of your chosen major or field, please be sure to use that in this project. And lastly would be an appendix or appendices. And this will be really handy to have if you have a list of questions that you are asking people, or you have a few genres that you want to talk about, a few pieces or artifacts that you want to discuss in your paper, that kind of thing. So again, this is due Sunday, August 3rd. And if you have any questions about it, or something here is just confusing you, please feel free to reach out to me. You can also reach out to the Learning Commons Academic Writing Center tutors. We do have our staff working throughout the summer at UC Claremont, but you can also reach out to the virtual tutors on the main campus. And I have provided you information previously on how to get in touch and how to schedule so that you can have somebody help you with the project. If you have any other questions, you know how to get in touch with me. So again, hang in there. We're almost done. Have a fantastic week, everybody. Bye-bye.